and welcome back to Meet the Authors with Dr. Philip Levin. We're honored to have as our second guest Lucy Slagel, who is the author of several of these historical fiction books that really bring to life the sense of the drama of living in Mississippi during the historical war periods. The one we'll be speaking about tonight is Camellia Creek, a wonderful historical book about the Civil War. So Lucy, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your writing.
Well, like Johnny, I'm a reader. I've always read. My loves when I was growing up were not only reading, but history. And I started out with Trixie Belden and the Dana sisters, which was the same authors that did the Nancy Drew series. I graduated up to Zane Grey and Max Brand, and then by the time I was in high school, I was reading the Franks Yerby and Slaughter. And then after I went to college, I joined the Navy, got married, and I escaped into escape fiction. I read a lot of romance, and by the time I had retired from the Navy, got my last baby in kindergarten, I decided I could write a romance, and I was sure I could improve on it, but found out that the publishers already had what they wanted, and what I was actually writing was mainstream fiction with a sensual romance.
These are wonderful books. How many books do you have published now?
I have 6 published. This is my 5th one, but I wanted to talk about it because it's the prequel to a sequel.
A prequel to a sequel, I like that. And one of the things I just want to mention here to our audience is her books have won all these marvelous awards. First, gold medals from independent publishers companies and silver medals, and she has a big following. Every time we go out to our shows together, she has all these people coming to buy her books because she has a wonderful reputation. If you haven't read one of her books yet, you're in for a real treat. So tell us about this book, Camellia Creek. Tell what it's set, tell us about it.
Camellia Creek is set in the fall of 1865 during presidential Reconstruction in Mississippi. It's the story of a Confederate officer who returns to his war-ravaged home in Claiborne County, and he's at risk of losing it, and he is determined that he will not lose it, whether it's by legal or illegal means, honorable or dishonorable. He's already sold part of his land to a carpetbagger. As it turns out, his road to solvency is the orphan niece of the carpetbagger, who, through no fault of her own, ends up vulnerable to him, and he's able to coerce her into marriage. And he brings her back to Camellia Creek, where she has to face his ghost, both figuratively and literally. And if I could, are we to the point to read?
We would love to have you read. This is a real treat. This is so well written. I'm always delighted to read this book and have Lucy now read in her own words. And before we get to that, I just want to mention that she writes under her pseudonym, Charlsie Russell.
Charlsie.
Sorry, say it again.
Charlsie.
Charlsie
I was named for my
Russell.
dad, Charles.
All right. Lucy, go ahead and read us our little section.
Okay, this is from chapter 1, and the heroine is exploring her uncle's property that he has just recently purchased from the hero. Vision blurred by tears, Alice shook the water from her cold fingers and watched. She frowned. The droplets pit the now placid surface of the creek, and on that mirrored surface the reflection of a young woman reached for her across the water. Alice jerked her head up, then rose and stumbled back 2 steps. No one stood on the opposite bank. The hackles rose along her spine. No one, at least, that she could see. She blinked, blur and tears forgotten. The creek flowed along as it had before, its surface turbulent to reflect anything but light and the muted colors of the forest. Hesitant to get close to the water now, Alice bent forward to make sure she'd really not seen anything, an image of herself perhaps beckoning her to oblivion.
That is a wonderful reading. It's beautiful. So tell us a little bit. This is a prequel to a sequel. So the sequel is called what?
The sequel is Honor's Banner. It continues the story of Camellia Creek. The hero of it is a United States Marine, and who is for the United States Marine, but it continues the mystery that started in this book, which actually takes a second place to actually this is a ghost story, and it is really brought to life in the sequel.
How wonderful. Where can our readers find these books? Where can they purchase them?
This book, and my books are in the system, so they are distributed by Ingram. You can buy them at any bookstore. You can buy them at Amazon. You can buy them in any digital format through Smashwords, at Diesel Books, iBooks, and Barnes & Noble.
How wonderful. It's such an honor to have you. Lucy, thank you for joining us. We really enjoyed hosting you and look forward to reading more of your work.
And thank you for having me, Phil. I really appreciate the offer.
All of the author's books are available through my website.
Here we are at the Orr O'Keefe Museum of Art. World-famous architect Frank Gehry designed this campus. Right now we're in the museum store where you can see all sorts of wonderful things from local Mississippi artists. We're coming up with a great show called Vintage Motorcycles, The Wind in Your Hair. The Orr O'Keefe Museum of Art has a really fantastic studio for ceramics. We also have a number of workshops. In the Gallery of African American Art, we have a very famous Chicago artist named Paul Wandless.